Good day everyone. The effects of pandemic COVID-19 outbreak on the survival of construction industry in Penang. I'm Rekha from USM. Introduction. Coronavirus is known as COVID-19, which is a disease that's spreading drastically in worldwide in the end of 2019 until now. In Malaysia, similar as other countries, also implemented the safety measure that announced by Malaysia government. Construction sector is also one of the sector that affected badly and construction works are fully shut down. The objectives of this research is to scrutinize the impact of pandemic COVID-19 catastrophe on the survival of construction industry in Penang. The objective of this research are twofold: to scrutinize the impact of COVID-19 on the construction industry survival in Penang and to identify survival strategies based on the owner's perspectives. These objectives are achieved using questionnaire and structured interview. Questionnaire are divided into two. Section A is respondent background, type of organization. Client holds the highest percentage with 28.8%. Category of organization 73.1% by the private. Role of a participant in the organization 34.6% by the other roles. Highest level of education 48.1% by the degree holders. And years of experience 0 to 10 years holds the highest percentage with 51.9%. And section B, assessment of impacts of pandemic on construction projects. The most prominent impacts of COVID-19 on the construction industry survival in Penang are work progress slowdown with 36.54% in extremely impacted and postponed ongoing projects with 34.62% among these impacts of COVID-19. In structured interview, it highlights that delayed in construction works and handover property to purchasers. Company needs to pay LAD to purchasers. Companies work still in progress after MCU and no any pending project. No government stimulus packages help his company and to pay salary to laborers using self-finance. Financial salary which he needs to make self-finance as usual in order to help his company to survive and perhaps after the MCU. In conclusion, this study explored the impacts of pandemic COVID-19 catastrophe on the survival of construction industry in Penang through questionnaire and structured interview. At the same time, it is observed that the level of SOP compliance among construction players is seen to be better, and this new norm should be maintained in the construction industry to avoid the second wave of COVID-19 in Malaysia. That's all from me. Thank you.
For many of us, COVID-19 for sure won't be a sweet memories. In fact, for many of the household, lockdown means an income loss or even becoming jobless. As they are losing their sources of income, my question is, how are they going to afford their living costs? In Malaysia, the government has provided various forms of incentive to assist the public housing tenants. However, there are no direct assistance has been provided to the private rental tenants at all. In other countries such as the USA and Australia, there are substantial evidence proving that the private rental tenants, particularly for those living in metropolitan cities, are suffering in both financially and mentally during this pandemic. As our country is still haunted by the pandemic, therefore, it is crucial for us to examine the condition of the private rental tenants and provide relevant assistance to them before things become worse. To identify the condition of the private rental tenants, data is collected via an online survey. The question is designed based on the variables obtained from the literature review, and this study has adopted stratified sampling and voluntary response sampling. An important thing that needs to be taken note is that the survey is carried out before we enter MCO 3.0. At the end of the survey period, 123 samples has been collected, and majority of the tenants are from the B40 groups. The collected data is then analyzed using descriptive statistics and parity tests. As at April 2021, the study found that the rental remains to be affordable, and only a small portion of B40 has exceeded the affordability threshold limit. Looking at the results, the rental payment method before and during the pandemic does not have any significant changes. However, there are a high percentage of tenants is relying on unconventional income even before the pandemic. Despite of this condition, the tenants are still being confident in their ability in meeting the rental obligation. This is because majority of them is optimistic that the pandemic is temporary during the survey period. In terms of mental health, majority of the tenants are in moderate stress level. Therefore, many of them feels that future assistance is extremely necessary for them to get through the pandemic. Taken all together, we can conclude that the effect of the pandemic on the private rental tenants in Malaysia is not significant. However, things has becoming worse as the third wave strike our country. Therefore, it is recommended in the near future, the government can provide rental-related subsidies to the tenants in order to relieve their financial and mental burden. That's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and hello to everyone. My name is Farna Suha binti Muhammad Zaidi and my partner Syamailah binti Noisham. We'll be presenting our research study report for Outbreak 2021, which is project brief and project content. So I will present for the project brief part. Our site is at Mukim Bandar Kuala Langat. Mukim Bandar is situated in the middle in between Jugra, Teluk Panggil Megarang and Kelanang. There are several landscape planning issues in Mukim Bandar, and one of them was poor accessibility for facilities, which is the issue the society of Mukim Bandar is facing. COVID-19 pandemic is posing a threat to health system all around the world. Fear, misinformation, and restriction on the movement of people and material exacerbate the rapidly rising demand for COVID-19 care, disrupting the delivery of frontline healthcare to all people. To address COVID-19 and other important ongoing public health challenges while limiting dangers to health professionals and the communities, decision makers will need to make decisions as this pandemic needs people to act fast. Therefore, decision must be based on how much time can be saved and ultimately provide solution to the community as opposed to without analysis and no knowledge of which path is closer, as so was the case in Mukim Bandar Kuala Langat. Why Mukim Bandar had poor accessibilities for facilities? It is because due to urban sprawl, Mukim Bandar facilities were inaccessible due to the city unrestricted outward expansion with residential and commercial development placed distant from the city centre. Aside from that, the community there is dispersed with a sharp narrow lane between residents and also looping through farming field crops, requiring the community to commute and access facilities. Therefore, they had to run every public street in Mukim Bandar only to get to the nearest facility. As a result, a detailed analysis utilizing GIS analysis is required to resolve the problem by determining the best route to nearby facilities in Mukim Bandar, which is run shortest path analysis and find concept facilities.
Hi, Assalamualaikum everyone. My name is Syamailah binti Noisham and I'll be the second presenter for our second research study board for Outbreak 2021. So in order for us to cater the needs of people during this critical situation of COVID-19 pandemic, we took upon several factors that impede an individual's access to these health centers in Mukim Bandar Kuala Langat. There are three objectives conducted in this study, which is to identify the alternative routes for local community to reach the healthcare facilities, determine the shortest route, and lastly to find the closest facility for people to access in case of emergency. These are the data and analysis involved in both GIS analysis. This study assessed a composed data collection such as road access, residential, lease and types of healthcare facilities, and as well as the base map from Google Earth and performed with GIS analysis. These are the flowchart of all the GIS analysis. We divided into two methods, which is method 1 for data collection and method 2 is data analysis. For the method 1, the data collection consists of two, which is list of healthcare facilities and residential area data. All these data were generated from our own site study and also from outsourced studies, Google Map and Waze application. After we have done with all the data collection in method 1, we proceeded to do method 2, which is data analysis. In this method, there are three steps that are continuing from the step 4. In step 5, we digitize a roadmap analysis and identify these 11 routes alternative for each residential to access the healthcare facilities. Then in step 6, we perform a network analysis and run the shortest path analysis. And the last one is step 7, which is find closest facility. So now that we have performed both GIS analysis, that brings us to the final outcome of this study. These are the final outcome for shortest path analysis, where we discovered 6 best optimal route for each residential to access each healthcare facilities respectively. For the find closest facility analysis, we pick an incident near Kampung Sungai Buaya since it's in the center between both facilities, and we identify that Kampung Bandar Health Clinic is the closest facility to the incident area. The result also helped delineate the areas that may face a COVID-19 induced shortage of healthcare resources. In conclusion, we managed to perform the GIS analysis and overcome the problem by finding the most convenient alternate route for residents to reach the healthcare facilities. Through this finding, it allows us to gain a complete insight of how essentially the healthcare facilities is prepared to save people's lives during the COVID-19 pandemic and to ensure that everyone has access to healthcare. That is all.
Assalamualaikum and greetings to all. My name is Daya Mazlul Khairina binti Abang Ismawi, a bachelor degree student of quantity surveying based in UiTM Kota Samarhan, Sarawak, under supervision of my respected lecturer Suku Muhammad Ashraf Kuazir. The aim and objective of my research is to identify the remedies to loss and expense suffered by contractors throughout MCO. Therefore, I'm going to present my research study entitled Remedies to Loss and Expense during COVID-19 Movement Control Order from the perspective of QS. COVID-19 continued to spread, forcing the authorities to deploy MCO in construction projects like others were subjected to preventive measures such as delaying activity. Furthermore, contractors must use extension of time in accordance with contract conditions, but most contracts do not include an express provision permitting the contractor to claim EOT or L&E solely on pandemic, according to Yadeta and Pendi. Proving delay and claiming for L&E according to ALNAS et al. Is difficult and time-consuming, and Crimshaw said that site costs, increased pricing, and other losses might arise during pandemic. According to Harun and Raza, lack of finance also contributed to building industry's downturn, and since the nationwide MCO, Malaysia's construction industry has lost up to 11.6 billion Malaysian ringgit each month as reported by the Star Online. Clause 43.0 of PWD contract stated that the contractor may claim EOT by notifying the SO. The reasons of delay in writing and supporting documents must be complied with events under Clause 43.1. Meanwhile, under PAM contract, the contractor may request EOT to the architect alongside details of the delay and in accordance with Clause 23.8 relevant events. On the other hand, L&E based on PWD contract only permits contractors to claim L&E if they have incurred direct L&E, as stated in Clause 43.1. For PAM contract, the claims for L&E are subject to Clause 24.3. Pekeliling Perbanan Malaysia is a special EOT rule for government projects impacted by MCO. Companies can claim EOT under MCO as mentioned under Element 3.1, and the extension depends on government's evaluation. Element 2.0 also indicated that EOT evaluation must be completed during MCO period and carefully analyzed. Meanwhile, Element 4.3 stated that contractors are not entitled to L&E for EOT due to MCO, based on government determinations on the force majeure principle. According to Hurst and Bird, preset questions and the question are designed to address the research aims. This research questionnaire had been distributed to 97 QS working for public or private sector across Borneo, and only 89 respondents responded. The questionnaire was structured in Likert scale format, and by using SPSS statistics, descriptive statistics and practices were used to analyze the data derived from the questionnaire. The figure on the left shows the impacts on employees recorded the highest percentage in categories of L&E such as productivity due to health screening and others as mentioned by Crimshaw. This impact is a new category that shall be considered since it's the first time Malaysia encounters such pandemic. Meanwhile, Yahya et al. Said a claim for L&E includes the documentation of claim as burden of proof and must be presented before it can be approved. 7 best practices were identified as contractors' obligation to claim for L&E. Among the 7 practices shown in the right figure, most respondents agree that if a contractor can compile the causes, effects, and calculation of compensation, it will be easier to evaluate and grant the claims for L&E. Overall, proof shall be efficient and adequate, and this can be supported by Amochiazi et al. As they said that keeping records of proof allows easier process of claims. The following figure shows 5 non-money-based remedies as alternative to alleviate disputes during MCO. It was recorded that negotiation with client received the highest percentage, indicated the most accurate remedy to L&E. The respondents believe that even if the contract does not allow the contractors to claim L&E solely due to pandemic, the contractors can still negotiate with the client while maintaining the contract provision at force. Even Sun and Shu suggested that the parties involved should minimize the loss and properly resolve various disputes as this pandemic is yet to end. Not only negotiation, but all the suggested remedies are also equally important. Amochiazi et al. Said an expert's credibility like certified QS plays an important role as a witness on disruption claims. Ibrahim et al. Highlighted that the regulations or law are greatly essential, especially in this pandemic. In conclusion, Perkeliling Perbankan Malaysia said clearly that contractor is not eligible for L&E, but the contractor should consider discussing a suitable strategy with the employer to reach a mutual agreement. As a result, many respondents believe that the best solution is to negotiate with the client. This overall highlights the significance of this study, which it may encourage both contractor and client to cooperate healthily, especially in disputes. Last but not least, a study on the effectiveness of negotiation as the remedy to L&E can be carried out for future research.
We have finally come to an end of presentation. I would like to end this presentation with few last words. Since the pandemic is yet to end, hopefully everyone will remain healthy and strong. Stay safe and thank you.
Assalamualaikum and greetings everyone. I am Siti Asma Muhammad Zaini from UiTM Seri Iskandar. In today's presentation, I like to unravel a research topic entitled The Influence of Pandemic Outbreak Towards Employability Challenges of Fresh Graduates in Malaysian Construction Industry. So, here's the presentation outline starting from background of research and lastly, references. Background of research. The world. COVID-19 pandemic has attacked the world, causes many deaths, resulting in lockdown in many countries to avoid spreading of this virus. It affects economic and labor crisis. It is because it will raise the global unemployment by nearly 25 billion. It is due to reduced working hours, wages and retrenchment. Meanwhile, in Malaysia, the Prime Minister enforced the MCO, resulting in suspension of construction works. Bank Negara Malaysia predicted the unemployment rate worse than the Asian financial crisis in 1998. This is because businesses had to restructure their workforce to survive in the current crisis. Continue with research issue. As you can see in the graph here, there are many graduates from Public Higher Education Institute. The issue here, the employment of fresh graduate in Malaysian construction industry. Therefore, this study intended to understand the effect of pandemic on the employability of fresh graduate in Malaysian construction industry. The research aim is to analyze the challenges of pandemic outbreak towards employability of fresh graduate in Malaysian construction industry. Meanwhile, for research objective, it is to determine the employability challenges of fresh graduate in Malaysian construction industry during pandemic outbreak. There are 4 phases involved in SLR, starting with identification, screening, eligibility and exclusions, and lastly, data abstraction. Search string for this research as shown here. Meanwhile, the main database used were Google Scholar and UiTM Library. Here is frequency table for challenges which include variable, authors, years, and item checklist in a systematic way. From the list of variable, the challenges are new normal employment environment, economic impacts, employment prospect, and employer brand attributes. Rahman et al. 2020 stated that many projects have to reschedule during the lockdown. Kadir et al. Also uttered that unrealistic salary due to oversupply of graduate in Malaysian market. For study area, Selangor region were chosen for this study. It is because Selangor is the center of economic activities. There are 3 types of firm involved, which are architectural firm, quantity surveying firm, and civil engineering firms. From 511 population, 217 firms were chosen to be part of the sample in this study. Data analysis and findings. Demographic information. Questions under this section was analysed using frequency and percentage method using SPSS 26. From this table, it can be concluded that during COVID-19 pandemic, there is very least of retrenchment happened. However, only several firms recruit new staff. From the recruitment, it can be stated that most of the employer offer the same salary as before MCO. Under challenges, mean and ranking were used to analyze the data, which using 5 agreement level of Likert scale. Here is summary for each category. As you can see here, employment prospect rank at first 4.34 mean at agree perception level, followed by new normal working practice, and lastly, employer brand attribute. For discussion, skills, knowledge, and capabilities were important in securing a job during the pandemic season. It is supported by Kamaruddin et al. 2020 and Isa et al. 2020. Relevant skills and knowledge for better employment opportunities, followed by new normal working practice causing changes of practices, retrenchment, and facing many challenges. Lastly, lesser career advancement as construction industry had to reduce the number of workers during MCO. It can be concluded that employability challenges on fresh graduate are employment prospect, new normal working practice, and employer brand attributes. Therefore, students must equip themselves with relevant skills and knowledge for better employment opportunities. Here is the list of references. That's all from me. Thank you.